Hey guys, it's about beer 30. Let's take a walk into the kitchen and see what's in the fridge today. Hello everybody, thanks for stopping by Gregsbeerreviews today. Today's beer comes from Czig Meister, and these guys are out of New Jersey. This was sent to me by my brother Rico. This is a great big 750 milliliter bottle. And it is an English barley wine coming in at 8.5% ABV. And the note that he sent with the beer says bourbon barrel aged barley wine. Ooh yeah. Blended with local apple cider, fermented with champagne yeast, and then finished with vanilla and cinnamon. That all sounds very tasty. Said it was released on Saturday, June the 10th at the brewery to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. So it's a brewery only release here, guys, and it's about a month old in the bottle. Picked up a few weeks back and it was $18 for this big bottle. But you got to realize, I mean, this is a 750, it's an 8.5, it's barrel aged on top of that. That's what makes these beers a little pricier. And 20 IBUs, named after a cheat code in the 90s video game Mortal Kombat. Well, I wasn't much into video games then, or Mortal Kombat that I remember. So, let's see if it lives up to its reputation already. And it doesn't have a big one. I will tell you before we even get started, only 2 people have recorded comments or posted comments on Beer Advocate about this beer, so there is no rating from those guys over there. And the commercial description on Untappd says it's their anniversary, first anniversary, year in business, fairly new brewery. And it says the same thing here that I just read to you about the fermented and apple cider and champagne yeast and vanilla and cinnamon. So should be a fairly tasty beer. The champagne yeast usually concern me a little bit because that stuff will ferment down way below a typical ale yeast or beer yeast will. So hopefully they let this thing ferment all the way out. And of course, as soon as I got it from Rico, I stuffed it in the refrigerator to stop any further fermentation. So hopefully it's not going to be too overcarbonated, but it is all the way up to here in the liquid in the bottle. I mean, I only give it about an inch or so headspace, and that's typical for most beers, but a lot of times when they introduce champagne yeast and stuff, and it keeps fermenting, you sometimes can get a gusher. So I'm hoping this is not going to be one. It doesn't have a cork and a cage on it, but it doesn't mean anything. I can pop a top on this thing, and it can still gush out the top of the bottle, and I'm hoping it does not. So, got my fingers crossed, both of them. That's all we need to talk about, so let me get it down here and go ahead and get it open and see what happens. Hopefully they got a grip on their carbonation. Very new brewery, so let's see what kind of pop we get here. Oh, very nice. Not a big pop. It ain't going to come gushing out with that little bit of pop. Usually when you get the gushers, it goes pop, and then you get the geyser. So, get a full bottle. You got what you paid for here. Into the glass we go, and I will tell you the cheeses are sharp blue cheddar, your stronger cheeses, and it says general digestive. Glass for the pint Beckernonic tumbler mug, snifter oversized wine glass. Looks a lot like cider coming out of the bottle. It says here can be sold for a long period of time, but I don't know the reason why you couldn't. Didn't pour any head, very much like a cider. It looks like a cider. It's a light amber color, very clear on the thin part down here, nice amber color up here. A lot of bubbles streaming up in the glass, but it didn't pour much of a head on that. It's not even covering the top of the beer, very much like a cider is. Most of the ciders are not carbonated or not much carbonation. Let's get a nose on it and see what we got. Very light fruity notes, guys. Smells a lot like a mead or a cider. I'm getting apples. A little bit of cinnamon. Vanilla's not standing out right now. I'm not getting any of the barrel age, and I'm pretty sure it says that on the bottle. I thought it did anyway. Yep, aged in bourbon barrels. I'm not getting that on the nose, guys. Evidently they didn't leave it in the barrels very long, or it wasn't first run barrels. Well, that's what I'm getting. Let's see what we're tasting. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Rico. Very light. Lighter fruits. Apples, pears, apricots. Lighter fruit notes. Hint of cinnamon on the taste. Not big vanilla. I'm getting absolutely no bourbon notes. None. Absolutely none. That's a shame. Very reminiscent of a lighter, fruitier ale, maybe even close to a mead or a cider. But it is a beer. I'm not getting that super fruitiness that you get from an apple mead or a pear mead or something that's done with some lighter fruit. Very tasty. Alcohol is very well hidden. I'm not getting any of that 8.5%. But a little disappointed that I'm not getting any more bourbon notes than I am. So let's let it warm up and see if I can let it open up and come together and see what we get here when I come back with the final chug. Right now, I'm not getting any, zero, not a zip, no bourbon notes on it right now. So let's sip on it for a while and see what we got. I'll be right back. Alright guys, I'm back. Got just a little left here. Now that it's warmed up a little bit, the cinnamon is a little overpowering on everything else. Still not getting a huge bourbon barrel note, and that may be what they were after here. They probably didn't want the bourbon barrel notes to overpower the fruitiness of the beer. So very non-typical barley wine, if you will. It doesn't have that super big sweetness on the back end that most typical ones with that caramel, toppy, brown sugar molasses taste. This is more of a lighter fruit. It's very similar to a mead or a cider, guys. It really is. And in my personal opinion, it's just my opinion, it's so close to a mead or a cider rather than a barley wine. So I really don't think the beer fits the style that well. It is a tasty beer. It is something different. It is what it is, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Been sipping on it for about 30 minutes. It's, the cinnamon is just a little overpowering. It's overpowering everything else, guys. There is an ever so slight bourbon note in there, but you have to look for it. Very light, very crisp, very non-typical barley wine. I'm not getting that caramel, toppy, brown sugar molasses taste in this. It doesn't fit the style for what they're trying to go, where they're trying to go with this beer, in my opinion. I do think it's a well-made beer, but it's very non-typical. If you're expecting your average barley wine With the barrel aging, you're not going to get it on this one. It's just not there. More of a lighter fruit, closer to a mead cider than anything else. Final cut. But they did it very well, though. I will say that. If I didn't know or had not had it written on the bottle that it was barrel aged, I don't know if I would have picked up on it. It's that subtle. But the lighter, excuse me, the lighter fruit notes are there. Apples, pears, apricots, cinnamon is definitely there. I think the cinnamon's a little overdone. Not getting a huge vanilla note on it either. So kind of up in the air on what I'm thinking about this beer. It's not a barley wine, guys. It doesn't taste like a barley wine. It doesn't have those aspects of a barley wine. Something very different. If you want to try something different, this is probably it may fit the bill. A lot of light fruit notes on this beer, and not a lot of bourbon notes. Not a lot of molasses or brown sugar or anything like that, and not a big sweetness. It is a sweet beer, but it's more of a lighter fruit sweetness than it is anything else. So I don't think it fits to the style of the beer, and I don't think it's worth $18 a bottle. That's my bottom line there, and that's what Rico paid for this. And this is a brand new brewery, like I said. They'll get it. They'll get it. Trust me. The second anniversary is probably going to be something a little different. The third anniversary, fourth anniversary, they'll figure it out, and we'll probably get some really, really tasty beer down the road from these guys. So, with that being said, it is a tasty beer, and I'm going to give it a B+. I'm going to give this a 98 in the scale. Over to Beer Advocate, only 2 people have commented. One of them liked it, one of them didn't. So they haven't posted anything as far as an overall grade. Untapped has it at 3.98. That's their B+ range as far as I'm concerned. Pretty close to their A- range. I would, not just me, my personal opinion, I would like to have been able to pick up a little bit more on the bourbon notes, since you're paying for that. And it says that on the label. But it is a tasty beer, but it is something different than the typical English style barley wine. So that's where we're going to leave it. I did enjoy this. I don't know if I would pick it up if it was available here. I'm glad I got to review it. And Rico, my brother, thank you a bunch for spending your hard-earned money on this and letting me review it. But it just didn't go to the A category to me, especially for what you paid for it and what I'm tasting in the glass. The cinnamon is just a little overpowering. If you like cinnamon, you may love this beer, especially with the lighter fruit notes and stuff. If you're a wine drinker or you don't like that heavy bourbon molasses taste, you may like this. You really may like this. So everybody has their tastes are very subjective in beers, and like I said, you may like it. You really may like it, and I did like it. It's a nice change from your typical barley wine, but for something that costs as much as this one did, and being in the bourbon barrels, I'd like to have a little bit more bourbon notes than what I got on this. So, and the first thing she said, I'm tasting cinnamon, and the cinnamon is just a little over the top on this one, guys. Didn't get the vanilla, didn't get too much bourbon. So, if you've had this one from Czig Meister, this is their first anniversary edition. Abacabb, A-B-A-C-A-B-B, Abacabb. Reminds me of Genesis, Phil Collins' album. Imagine that. Alright guys, if you have, let me know. Come on back tomorrow. Let's go see what's in the fridge.